first time I did a conductor on 109. 12 is my favorite. I like to operate that. Conductor. So I'll give you a spiel that's going to be something that's rather unique because I was trying to look up, when this car was in existence, what was going on, okay? So this car was built in 1954. So if you think back, I thought about that as history. Then I had second thoughts and I said, no, I was alive back then. It's like, so why do I have to look up a history book? I can talk about my own adventures, okay? So, the 1950s in America was a rather unique time, okay? So, I'm going to sing a song, okay? And see if anybody recognizes it. Probably not because of the way I sing it, okay? But it kind of sets the tone of why we're here, okay? So it goes 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, rock, go to rocks. All right, the world tonight. Okay, now why is that important? Because 1950 was a period of change in America, just like it was on the car 12. What was happening then is rock and roll was becoming the kind of the genre that young people would have. And to give you a sense of where it was coming from, my mom liked Frank Sinatra, okay? The song I sang was definitely not by Frank Sinatra. So the Crooners were gone and rock and roll was here. And that kind of set the stage for 1950. If you think about 1950s, it's when the soldiers were coming home from war, okay? They were looking, America at that time, they talked about it was the golden time in America. It was a time when people felt very optimistic. The war was over. I can remember my uncles coming back from the war and telling me stories. And one thing that was different between this and 12 is much quieter. What happened is that the way it happened is that car 12 was used as a rapid transit car going between Windermere and 117th first, and then it was actually extended out to the airport. Now we were the first city in the country, believe it or not, that had mass transit capabilities all the way to the airport. And that was back in around 1965. So this car was in service from 1954 till around the early part of the 1980s. Cars that you saw on the side, silver ones, those are the ones that replaced these cars. Okay? This was known as the Bluebird, and for the people who didn't like it, and I'm not sure if everybody's got it familiar, but they called it a spam can. Okay? If anybody's familiar with spam, okay? Believe it or not, that was kind of a staple back in the 50s, okay? Processed meat. But and it was a derogatory term because the people who saw this car said, we don't like the modern ones. We like the ones that are more traditional. We like car 12, the way it looks, okay? But the industry kept changing and tried to keep making things to attract people to ride it. And if you think about it, the rapid transit was a transition period of time when actually we started to have more people affluent enough to buy a car, roads that were passable so we could travel between places. And what happened is the streetcar slowly died. Car 12 went from a streetcar to a rapid transit car. It used to be picking up people and going 20, 25 miles an hour. All of a sudden, it was stopping every 2 or 3 miles and going maybe 35, 40 miles an hour to get from one station to the other. It was much more impersonal. In other words, there were originally conductors on these trains, but basically they were there to kind of oversee what's going on, open and close the doors. Later in its life, the conductors went away. There was only an operator, paid your fare, and a toll style, turnstile, and became But if you think about the 1950s, and I've been reading a lot about it, and some of the things that struck me is M&M's. Okay, does anybody know the little slogan that goes with M&M's? No, what that? Yeah, but not in your hand. Why is that important? Why do you think they advertise a piece of candy that melts in your mouth and not in your hand? Right? Well, what did we have back then? Air conditioning. So M&M's was really a reaction to people wanting to sell chocolate. The way they sold chocolate is they wrapped it up in something that would like a sugar coating that would not melt in your hand. So and also there was another product that was out. It's called Pez. Okay, does anybody know what Pez was? What was Pez? Right. So you buy this packet, the little rectangular candies. You stuff it in your little. It could be Santa Claus or it could be a character of the day. You stuff them all in, put them in your pocket, and then you flip them, and then we go into your mouth. Okay. So I mean, and if you think about that, the population in 1925 was probably about 100 million people in the United States. By the time the little 50s or early 60s came out, there was over 150 million. Most of those people were east of the Mississippi. Very few people were out west. Okay, I had relatives. I remember them going out west to California. And it was kind of like, you need a visa to get out there. You know, it's kind of, but it was a major trip. It wasn't like it is today. So, and also it's kind of the average income. This is hard to believe. So I got all these facts in my head. I got to unload. But the average wage, annual wage, $3,300. This is what, 75 years ago. Average home price, what do you have? Between $7,000 and $10,000. Yeah, that's. I mean, in today's world, it's hard to think. But if you put those things in context, the average working wage per hour was about $1.37. So it was a whole different way of living. People were coming back. They were living what at the time was the American dream. The American dream is to have a family, okay, to have a home, and maybe to buy a car. Okay. My father never had a car. I grew up in New York City, took rapid transit all over. I went to high school. I grew up in Queens, and you're familiar with Long Island. Anybody from Long Island? You have Queens and you have Brooklyn. At high school, when I was 15, I took the subway to school because it was a magnet school and I had to take the subway. So I busted 2 subways. I still remember. It's the F and the GG. It's kind of like, so it was a way of life back then. And the car was really still something special. It wasn't, we didn't have 2 of them. I can remember on my block when somebody would get a car, everybody would go over and see what it did. How did it work? What was going on? Okay. The other thing that was, I go back to the teenagers. You got a couple of things. Well, yeah. Okay, so anyway, so what was something that was new at the time, okay? And it's hard to believe that it was new and not everybody had it. What do you think that is? Television, okay? You know, at that point, really the way you got entertainment is you either listened to the radio or you went to the movies. Part of the reason you went to the movies is because all the movie theaters were air conditioned, okay? So your M&Ms would not melt in your hand, right? So if you think about that, that's part of the reason that this museum is has been kind of kept. And that is we collect cars, we preserve them, we restore them, we operate them. There are very few museums that have it like in the 50s? Okay? You know, one serious thing, and I think it was a point in time in our American history, is in 1954 in Topeka, Kansas, okay, there was a lawsuit brought about, and the Supreme Court unanimously ruled in favor of it. Does anybody know what that is? It's called Brown versus Education. And that was a very serious way. It said you can't use schooling as a separate but equal. You have to integrate them. So if you think of the start, you think of the 60s as the big time when things started to change and we became much more aware of some of the things that we needed to do as a country. It really started in the 50s, okay? So if you think of television, okay, more cars, homes, I mean, it was this interesting period of time. So the last thing I want to do is I'm going to ask everybody, okay, you have to close your eyes, and we're going to do a little television thing, okay? You got to close your eyes, okay? Close your eyes.
Ventriloquist.
Yeah. My name, anybody know who this is?
I've
My
seen
name
him.
is Trolley The Condector, okay? And Edgar Bergen was a ventriloquist. And Charlie, believe it or not, Charlie said that was on television. Believe it or not, on Charlie TV, I have So, this is not 50 years old. This is probably from the 60s. Okay? So, if you think about Charlie McCarthy and that period of time, this was on prime TV, and this is what people watched. Okay? Isn't that's not hard to believe. So, I'm having a real good time. You go with it. You go with it. So I want to say, thanks everybody. Go ahead. This car was built, another kind of interesting fact, it was built in St. Louis. And it was built with all American parts, all American labor. And if you think about the 1950s, the United States was the machine shop of the world. We made everything.